On Larry King Now, actress and style icon Tracee Ellis Ross. So nice to see you back on TV again in Blackish.
I'm very proud of this subject matter. I think this is a show that needs to be on the air. I'm happy to see a loving couple, a family on television that actually has my skin color. And I think the opportunity for a show like this is that the world gets to see a family as a family, and raising children is very similar for everyone. What the world knows of my mother honestly does not hold a candle to who she is as a mom. I was introduced to the magnitude of her fame at a very young age, but couldn't really understand what it meant until I was much older.
It's kind of crazy because when I thought about doing this interview with you, I was like, I think they're gonna need a bigger studio because it's a lot of hair.
It's a lot of hair.
Plus?
Like, I don't do this because I want, it's because it makes me feel good. I live in my body. I feel, yeah, I'm naked.
Yeah. You popped it open.
Yeah,
There you go.
They wanted to talk.
All next on Larry King Now. Welcome to Larry King Now. I'm Janet Mock and I'm sitting in for Larry today. My guest is actress and style icon, well, my curly hair guru, Tracee Ellis Ross. Tracee stars in the new ABC comedy Blackish and is perhaps best known for her long run on one of my favorite sitcoms ever, Girlfriends. Blackish airs Wednesdays at 9:30 p.m., 8:30 Central. Tracee, thank you so much for joining me.
I'm so happy to be here.
This is like a dream come true. It's kind of crazy because when I thought about doing this interview with you, I was like, I don't think they're gonna need a bigger studio because it's a lot of hair.
It's a lot of hair. It's a lot of hair and a lot of smiles, you know, and that sometimes takes more space. Thank you so much for what you said in my intro. Though. So, did you love Girlfriends?
I did. Girlfriends was kind of everything to me growing up. Well, it sounds so crazy. I'm like growing up. When in my early 20s,
yeah.
You know, late teens, early 20s, to have that kind of a space where like young women were figuring out who they were, navigating LA, and navigating datings, and like being the central characters, to me at least, was the girlfriends.
And that it was for women.
I know.
Yeah, it's really cool.
I know, and so it's so nice to see you back on TV again in Blackish.
I'm excited.
Right?
Yeah.
And I heard you kind of describe Blackish as not just so much about like being kind of black, but more the ish that black people deal with.
Yeah, you know, I was having a conversation with my sister recently, and she was like, Blackish is actually a question. It's a question that each of us can answer, and it's about the ish, it's about the cultural identity. And we were talking about how ish, in and of itself, that expression, is used to kind of give you the of something, the like gray of what something is. And I think for me, especially right now in our culture, it's like, what is black? And is there a way to define that? And isn't that something that's different for everybody? Because as a black person, we're not a monolithic group. We all have different experiences, and that's the same for everyone. So to me, the show is really about the human-ish, told through the perspective of this black family.
What I find so powerful too, I think just as a network-wise, that ABC is putting it after one of their biggest happy family times,
How
right?
cool
like
is that?
after Modern Family, like
Yeah.
Blackish is following that. How does it feel to be supported in such a way?
I think it's really exciting. I mean, speaking of Girlfriends, you know, I don't think we had a billboard until 4th season. So to have the support of a network in terms of really them being behind us and understanding the show, wanting the show, promoting the show, that's a really huge deal. And then on top of that, to give us that time slot is really exciting. But more than that, to me, it's a match for Modern Family. It's a similar kind of sensibility. It's a similar kind of like not afraid to go there with the issue, not afraid to talk about what we want to talk about, and be really, the word is not topical, it's current in the way we talk about things. You know, I think that, to me, sometimes TV takes a minute to catch up with our culture. It's always, in my opinion, a little bit further behind. People are like, it's time for a show like this. I'm like, it's been time for a show like this. But the beauty of it is that ABC is giving us an opportunity to be seen, but the dialogues that we're gonna be having on the show, the conversations that we're having, the things that we're talking about are things that I think all of us have been talking about. Or if we don't know we've been talking about them, we're on the show able to put the label on them that tells you this is what you're talking about, this is what you're dealing with, this is the question that you're asking within your family. What happens to cultural identity? What do you pass on to your children? How do you let your children start from your shoulders and and yet hold on to the cultural identity and legacy of what you come from? These are all questions that every culture is asking, and every parent is asking as you raise your children, you know?
Yeah, you know, it was so interesting for me watching the pilot and seeing you inhabiting the character of Rainbow, right? And seeing her husband kind of say, well, you're not really black because you're half, you're blackish. And she's like, well, can you tell that to my hair and my ass?
Right.
And so as a biracial woman myself, I understand that so acutely, right? And I really love what you said about the monolithic idea of what blackness is. And I love that the show is expanding that a bit and challenging us.
Sort of pulling that apart. I mean, I don't remember there being a woman of mixed race on television where that is actually something that is named. It's not the specific through line of my character. That's not what sort of guides my storyline, but it is claimed and named that I am a woman of mixed race. And that moment to me is really a defining moment in the show, honestly. The moment where Dre says, so are you really black? And to me, without me saying like, please stop asking that question, or like, please stop saying that, like, it's so ridiculous. And the humor with which I come back, to me, is the nature of the show. It's like we're gonna take the stereotype, the thing that people always say, you're not black enough, are you really black, whatever that is, and then pull it apart and go like, why are we even asking that question, and what does that really mean? And is the question we're asking really about, are you black or not, or is it really about your culture and your identity and what's important to you?
And how you negotiate all of those lines, even within a household where everyone has different experiences with race and class,
exactly.
right? Which
and
class is a big part of it.
I think that's more of it. You know, I think back 20, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, whatever, like, black might have been defined specifically. It might have been socioeconomic. There might have been specificity to it. It meant this, you know? I don't think it means that anymore. In our culture, there's such a sort of, whatever this word is. What's this word?
A plethora?
It's like an immersion of cultures of all kinds. You know what I mean? There's this sort of melting pot nature of what we've worked so hard on in this country that has actually occurred. So we are all adopting pieces, the good pieces. Take what you like and leave the rest. You know what I mean? We're all taking those things that work for us, and I mean, the negative word for it would be appropriating.
Cultural appropriation,
right?
Yeah.
But I think, you know, it's happening everywhere now. I mean, butts would be the...
And Iggy Azalea.
I mean, right? Which is fascinating to me. I'm like, really? Those black women have been dealing with the booty forever, you know? But that's always a part of our culture, and I think that's really what the show deals with. And I want to say this really clearly. You know, the title, I understand this sort of thing that people are having about the title. I did not have it because when I was introduced to the title, I was introduced to the script. So the title was so closely enmeshed with the subject matter that it was so clear what the show was about that there was nothing about it that felt like, what is this, you know? It really is a story about a family dealing with their ish, and this family is a black family. And so it made sense to me that this title was this, and yet when asking people why they think the title is weird, I'm actually sometimes confused because I'm like, where has that term been used? Like, I'm like, I've never had a problem with the word black, and ish is kind of modern. And I think the opportunity for a show like this is that the world gets to see that a family is a family, and raising children is very similar for everyone.
And I totally want to stay on this again. Up next, Tracee on the Black Renaissance in Hollywood and her path from girlfriends to blackish. Stay with us. We're back with Blackish star Tracee Ellis Ross. Tracee, thank you again for being with us.
Thank you for having me, Janet.
Thank you for agreeing to do this with me, no-name Janet Mock. So I really...
Wait, first of all, why do you say that? I totally knew exactly who you were.
You didn't?
Yeah, I did.
Really? Was it the curls? What was it?
It was a combination of the curls. Listen, as a curly girl, you identify and know all the other curly girls. And you go, wait a minute, who's this? Why do I not know that girl? Who's this? I knew exactly who you were.
Oh,
exactly.
That is so
and there was some, I don't know if it was an article, there was something about 6 or 8 months ago that introduced me to you that I found through Twitter, actually.
Wow, I love Twitter.
So you are not some no name. Don't you give yourself that. Just cool it. You just cool it, Janet.
I appreciate
just stop
the
it.
curly girl love. Speaking of Twitter, I know a little bit before the break you talked a bit about kind of having the show be sound bit in this way of saying, like, titled Blackish, and how it's caused controversy. So for you as an actress who is visible in this sense, who is in media, who sees all these stories that are going on, and then wanting to, how do you hone that into your art? How do you do that?
Well, for me, my job, I look at it, is my job is to share humanity. To tell the truth of this human being that I'm playing. I'm not a producer on the show. I'm not writing these scripts. This is not coming out of something that I pitched and came up with, but I'm very proud of this subject matter. I think this is a show that needs to be on the air. I think that we are not seeing enough of the images of us. I'm happy to see a loving couple, a family on television that actually has my skin color. I'm also happy to see a family on television that is dealing with their ish. And so even though the show is about a family that is Black, I was saying to someone, because someone asked, they're like, I mean, are you guys gonna deal with being Black? You know, I'm like, I don't wake up in the morning as a woman of color, as a Black woman, as a mixed woman. I go, well, how am I gonna think about being Black today? Like, that just doesn't
It's just
happen.
a part of everything you do because it's who you are.
It's who I am, and certain things are affected more deeply because of a particular affinity to something specific that comes from my own legacy, or people that do look like me and are my skin color are affected in a different way because we're being treated in a certain way. But other than that, I'm walking through life, you know, and so.
But don't you think that there is something right now culturally that we're ready to talk about race in a way that, say, the Cosby Show couldn't do it?
Yes,
right. And
I do.
I think that there is something that probably ignited with the success of Scandal, right? And it seems like women of color are hot on TV right now.
Well, I think
don't you feel that way
in general,
sense?
our culture is ready. I think it takes a long time to start talking about something that understandably and obviously comes with so much heat. Everybody's experience of race is different. The way we've been affected by our race is different for everybody, and for some people it is a deeper and clearer wound, and for some people it is not. So that experience, I mean, look, every Black person, every Black male that I know has in some way been at some time pulled over for driving while Black. I understand the weight of race, right? But then it is time for us to have these conversations, for us to start being able to pull these things apart and talk about these things, even if they make us uncomfortable. And what a great way to do that than with comedy, where we can laugh at it, see how we all identify with each other, and still think. And yes, right now, to your point, thank goodness there's more people of color on TV. You know what I mean?
But I also, you know, I think that your road from, I think we keep on bringing up girlfriends. And I think that a lot of people don't understand how culturally significant that show was, to have 4 women of color's lives centered, their love lives, their friendships, their relationships.
The story was about them.
Yes.
And by the way, it was not just about 4 women of color, it was about 4 women, and that is very rare.
We're talking about a visual medium, so
yeah.
Color is important, right? And so the scarcity of roles that are out there, how have you navigated that in your own career in terms of building solidarity and shared sisterhood with other Black actresses who are navigating this world where there's such a scarcity of roles for all women, but then you know, there's the one Black girlfriend who's sassy, you know, like, oh my God. How have you navigated that?
How have I navigated that? Honestly, I have continued to cultivate my humanity as a person in my life. That's where my website came from. I do work with teen girls. I am a person who has to stay useful. Like I've got to be doing stuff. So if there are not roles, like I've saved my money. I saved my money. I made nice money on girlfriends.
Well, how you dress like this? You have to save some money. You need to have some coins to do that.
And then you do, you know, for me, success is about the freedom to choose. You know, the ability to actually choose roles that do represent me, that I feel like I can inhabit and share something with, and identify with, and bring myself to. And as a result, with there not being as many roles, and the fact that many different arrays of Black women get plugged into one role. We're sort of interchangeable to a certain extent in the industry. And so I have cultivated the rest of my life and continued to become a person.
I remember seeing your family together on the final season of the Oprah show. And it was amazing to see your mother framed as a mother, because I take her as a cultural icon that she is. But how was it to grow up in a household with someone who is a cultural icon but is just your mom?
What the world knows of my mother honestly does not hold a candle to who she is as a mom. So I was introduced to the magnitude of her fame at a very young age, but couldn't really understand what it meant until I was much older and moving into my own career. And I feel very clear and understand that, like, me being on television, she was one of the people that paved the way for that to happen. Personally, the fact that I have the courage to be myself, find myself, embody myself as a woman, the courage to go after what I want to do, to have a voice, to have a clear voice, to not be afraid to speak up, that is all because of the way I was raised. My mother made it very clear and made great space for all of her children to really discover who they were. I am not here living out my mom's dream. I am here living out my dreams, and finding what those things were, what the dreams were, what it is that I wanted from my life, what meaning I wanted my life to hold, all came from the way I was raised. My interest and care and love of humanity and human issues, of how I care for other people, and that how others are cared for is important to me, was all the way I was raised. You know, that was a part of the kind of parent my mother was and is. You know, to this day. I mean, she's still parenting, let me tell you. Let me tell you, she's still parenting.
What were some of the perks of growing up with Diana Ross as a mother?
I don't know.
Beyond the,
I'll tell you what the perks.
I'll
tell you what the perks are. I went to the best schools, and that is, and you know, my mom sang me to the best schools, and I am grateful to all of those extraordinary fans that loved her because and love her because I was able to go. I have a wonderful education that I'm very
your mother going from the projects.
For real.
Right. Like, let's be real. Like that's the journey that she took.
And
right?
the truth is that who I am is who we are presenting as a presented version of the kids on our show. You know, that they are being raised in a way that their parents were not raised. You know, my mother did not go to the best schools. My mom didn't go to college. You know, she afforded me that opportunity. I went to Brown University. You know, I went to amazing schools and high school, and I got to travel the world and lived in Europe. And that, to me, really changed my perspective as being a child of the world and not just an American. And it also changed my perspective on an understanding about race. You know, in Europe, being black or African American is not necessarily the thing. There's other cultures that are the minority,
the oppressed,
the yes. oppressed. You know, so I mean, I could go on and on about what my mother. It's just never ending. She's an incredible.
Well, there's one thing I would like to draw a line. Recently, feminism has become something, or feminist, the label has become something that young starlets have been asked often, and they've been very weary of the term, very scared. And so how—
True? Is that true?
Yes, it's true.
I'm obviously not one of them.
So are you a feminist?
You know, I have coined the term a little bit differently because
Okay.
I feel that feminism has evolved in a different way, and I think feminism started, which is what it needed to do, that it was about taking on the roles of men and sort of shifting into that patriarchal society. I think that we're in a very different situation now, and I like to term it Neofeminism, but I personally have no interest in being a man. I am owning my femininity as a woman and my power in that. You know, so that is my personal experience with that. But the idea and the expansive idea of womanhood and femininity is an extraordinary gray topic, and gender in this country is an extraordinary topic that is evolving in a way that I don't think any of us could have expected. I mean,
yeah,
this
I know,
is a topic obviously that we could talk about
this
forever.
Is, you know, gender is something that I talk about all the time.
I think
you know,
it's extraordinary.
As a young trans woman who's navigating the world and trying to figure out, or young trans woman of color trying to navigate all of it.
Sure. Honey.
Let's just get to it.
I mean,
you know?
let's talk about it.
But you know, for me, it took me a long time to embrace the term feminist, and and why I wanted to bring your mother in here is because it was Beyonce's stance, actually, since her last album, saying that she's a feminist, with Chimamanda Adichie on her album talking about defining what feminist is to her, because Beyonce had once said that that feminist was something that scared her. It seems severe, the term, right? And this idea that these women who want to be men are man-hating. I feel like patriarchy gave feminists the wrong idea.
Yes,
and almost like blackness too. Feminism is not a monolith.
It's not a monolith, and being a woman is not a monolith, and gender is not a monolith. And this is something that I think as our culture evolves, I mean, if you think about how recent therapy is in our culture, right? This sense of self and how you define that, I think that's an incredible topic that is a product of where we have come to as a culture, that we actually can live in the gray areas and explore those gray areas and not have to have everything within a black and white line, which is exactly where Blackish falls in, which is exactly...
You're so good, you bring it right back to
but it really is true. This is one of the reasons I think the show is so important. I think there's a reason that people get in an uproar about these things, because it is scary to a lot of people. But again, back to the way I was raised that my own personal journey and what I carve out and what feels right for me and how I discover that, explore that, embody that, be in that, that is my own journey, and that is not for anyone else to tell me. And that's one of the things I say about sexuality. You know, we're in a culture now where kids are discovering their sexuality by the way it looks, not the way it feels. There's a very different thing that happens there. And it's the same thing. I know that this might be a small topic, but I don't wear a lot of makeup on the show. When I'm coming out of the shower, I'm not wearing mascara. I mean, I might touch up a little bit around my nose. But, you know, I mean, these kinds of things are important to me because I feel like we're continuing to perpetuate this image as women that we're supposed to be these airbrushed creatures, and that is what's beautiful. That straight hair is beautiful. I don't have straight hair, so what do I do with that? You make space for that. You know, and because of the way I was raised in a way that it's okay to do that. You know what I mean? It's okay to say, yeah, no, like, this is beautiful. I'm sorry, I have a bigger butt. You know what I mean? Like,
and we want to know how you embrace that big butt, but also after the break, we want to...
Or how it's been embraced. No.
Well,
different topic.
Well, who was Tracee's first kiss? We'll find out in our final segment. Plus, Tracee will answer some of your questions. We'll be right back. So we're back with my new BFF, Tracee Ellis Ross.
Yep, right back at you, lady. Right back at you.
Acting aside, you've also built kind of this huge following on social media, and that's where my post-girlfriends, you came back into my life, was like seeing your style, seeing your talking about hair and natural hair. You've kind of, in Allure, they refer to you as the anti-goop for your relatability. What do you make of that?
I don't know. I like relatability. Anti-anything, I'm not into. I like that.
But you really do connect with real women who are online.
You know, one of the things that I feel really strongly about is creating a sense of community of like-minded, like-hearted people. One of the things that I really love is when people are like, you know what I've done that worked? Does that, you know, like, you know, this worked for me.
More of a collaboration.
It's like a collaboration, and it's like an energy of, look, I'm not telling you to be me. I'm telling you, I want you to be you. Like, my journey has been about how can I be the fullest, best me, knowing that the best me includes the worst me. Like, there's space for both of that within that.
But your best you, in my opinion, is your style.
Okay, you're awesome.
How much space does style and you know, you mentioned femininity a little bit and your womanhood embracing that. How much of that aesthetics takes up in your own life?
You know,
because you grew up with one of the most glamorous women ever.
Yeah,
and you've become your own.
I steal all of. Oh, I love that. That's really
no.
Sweet.
You really like seriously. I grew like seeing you with this big hair and this butt and dressing it up and smiling.
These
and
are the
happy.
things
like,
that I hated as a kid, and this is why I get so excited. I hated my
That's
butt.
why I'm sitting here is because women like you were out there doing what you've done, right, with your career.
My heart's so full, I fall over.
But seriously,
no,
like,
I really. Listen, growing up, there were not images that I saw. I didn't see, my mom did have natural hair. It was natural texture. Do you know what I mean? Like, her hair was big. It was not blown straight. So I had that, and I had a mother that encouraged me to be myself. But I did not see women that had big butts. I did not see women that wore their hair curly. I actually taught myself to smile so that my top lip would go away. I'll do it right now.
You're a pro.
I'm a pro. Because I hated that I had full lips. Although I have a friend that says, you don't have full lips. It looks like someone painted your lips on. They're fake, which I think is hilarious. But so, to me, if in any way my journey towards self-love and self-acceptance can encourage or support anyone else in their journey towards their own self-acceptance and their own self-love, then it hasn't been for nothing. Like, I don't do this because I want, it's because it makes me feel good. I live in my body. Yeah, I'm naked.
Yeah. You popped it open.
Yeah.
There you go.
They wanted to talk.
Well, I know other people who want to talk to you.
Oh, I love it. Go.
We have some social media questions for you.
Okay.
Mrs. Mars Blackmon on
Yes.
Instagram. When playing Joan on Girlfriends, what part of the show does she feel impacted her the most and why?
Oh boy, there was so much that I was impacted by. The one would be, I'm a person that's really hard on herself. I have to work against my perfectionism. And the fact that we did a show every week and that we did 176 of them and that you didn't have time to harp on what you thought I didn't have time to harp on what I did wrong or thought I did wrong because I had to move to the next moment was the biggest lesson, one of the biggest lessons I've ever learned in my life. Can I tell you one other?
Yes, please.
The other big, huge lesson that I learned while doing Girlfriends, my stepfather passed away on a Tuesday, and I got the phone call on my way to work, and Tuesday was the day that we taped the show in front of an audience. And they asked if I wanted the audience to go home, but we had to tape the show. And I asked the audience, I wanted the audience to stay because I felt like it would keep me up. And I learned a life lesson that I never thought was possible, which is that in some of the darkest and hardest moments, there is always a part of me, I have chills, there's always a part of me that is okay. And I can always access that part of me. And I learned it at work. But it's something that I've taken into all areas of my life because there are always moments when it feels so bad that you feel like you can't. And I now know that there is always a part of myself I can access that is okay.
Digital Med USA via Instagram asks, what is the best piece of advice you have received about working in the industry?
Pick three people that whose opinion and point of view and relationship with you respect. And listen to those people, and don't listen to the good stuff or the bad stuff, because it's all hype.
We talked about your mother, we talked about you in media, and the connection for me is this. Oprah Winfrey said when she saw Diana Ross on the Ed Sullivan Show in the 60s with the Supremes, she said that she instilled her with possibility and hope. She said that was everything to her. And I wrote about that in my book, and I said that it was Beyonce, and women like you that have done that for me. And so I want you to know the impact you have had in so many young women's lives. And so I'm very grateful that I got this opportunity to fill in for Larry, to speak with you, and I wish you so much success in your show. So thank you so much to my guest, Tracee Ellis Ross. Be sure to tune in to Blackish, airing Wednesdays at 9:30 p.m., 8:30 Central on ABC. And thank you to Larry King for letting me fill in for him and letting this dream come true.
Thank you, Larry. Where are you? Thank you, Larry.
Tweet me at Janet Mock to let me know how I did. And as always, you can find Larry on Twitter at King's Things. We'll see you next time.